Hi, I'm Rick Lobdell. Welcome to another episode of Concrete Mystique, the podcast. I want to thank SurfCoat for sponsoring this show. Go to surfcoat.com and check out all their great products. Follow me on all social media platforms. Today, I have my friend Chris Sullivan on the show. When I first decided to do a podcast, the very first person I had on my list is sitting right beside me, Mr. Chris Sullivan. And I know you laugh about that, but we've had so many conversations together over the years that I knew that it would be a fun, easy, podcast or just discussion about anything. We could talk about anything we want to. Of course, we're here today during the ASCC's annual conference. We are in, Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Way up in Michigan, and people like me from Ohio love to make fun of Michigan. It is what it is. Go Ohio State.
I'm from Pennsylvania. We just make fun of people in Cleveland.
Yeah, we make fun of the Steelers, except for when the Titans don't get anywhere, and then all of a sudden Nashville becomes nothing but black and gold.
Yep.
Drives me crazy.
They travel well.
So while we're at this event, let me start with, what do you typically do when you come to the ASCC conventions?
What do I do? Historically, I've worn quite a few hats. So for a while I was staff. Before that, just an attending member on the manufacturing side. And now I'm in a different role where I'm actually a contractor for the first time in my career, working for a company. We're a contractor. But honestly, it's a networking event. That's really the biggest end result, is the ability to network, connect with people that I've known for 20 plus years, and then also meet new people. So how long have you been coming to ASCC? Oh, geez. I can't give you an exact date, but it's probably close to 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been, when I started in the industry, decorative concrete industry or construction industry, I was a member of ASCC, ACI, NRMCA, about 3 or 4, and then after doing that for 3 or 4 years, and my schedule, as with everybody, you get busy, and I started to realize I want to be involved. I think that's really the important thing. The stress here is you can just show up. You don't get a whole lot out of that. You get out of it what you put into it. So it's involvement, attending seminars, being on committees, sitting on boards, having a voice, moving the industry forward. You can't do that in 5 different groups, organizations. And so I took a step back and said, which of these organizations do I feel is really making a difference, moving the needle, and where I fit in, it's a culture fit for me, and ASCC rose to the top. And so I have been active in ASCC for 20 years. I still, attend and am not really even part of, but keep in touch with these other organizations. But ASCC is the horse I have ridden.
Wow, that's awesome. And that says a lot when it's been 20 years. I mean, I've been here for 12, and I thought that was, but it's an interesting organization for me too, because we've talked about this before where, I'm this artist. I've never been a part of, this stuff doesn't exist in my world. Like even back in the day when we went to Concrete Decor Show, and the one year when you had the faux organization a part of it too.
Yeah.
And I'm walking through the booths, and all of a sudden I run into golden paint. Well, as an artist, we don't get to meet the manufacturer.
Right.
You don't have art shows. So it's a really interesting thing to be able to go talk to not only the community of people that are also doing the same work or similar work, but to also talk to the manufacturers about their products.
We need to do a better job of that, to be honest with you, in terms of getting the word out that it's welcoming to all. We want all viewpoints. And that's what makes it rich. That's what brings different aspects. Because if you just get the same viewpoints and the same group together, you're going to have groupthink versus, hey, spread it out. Have lots of different viewpoints.
Especially when it comes to all the different changes that have been happening.
Absolutely.
Like even this year with the L1, Type 1.
Type L1
Type
cement.
L1 cement. All of a sudden everybody's in an uproar, and it's something new, and it's something that we have to deal with, and everybody's talking about it. Right. If you weren't coming here to this event, you wouldn't even know about that.
Correct.
You wouldn't realize what's going on. Like the other day during our DCC meeting, Brandon was like, wait, hold on. What's going on? That's why I just had a problem on a job. I didn't even think about asking about the mixed design.
Right.
Which cracks me up too, because again, I don't even pour concrete. But every time I talk to somebody here, every question is, what's the mixed design? And I never even thought about that. And then one of my proud moments was when I was working with a commercial project at the Nashville Predators Stadium. And I'm talking to the concrete guy, and I'm like, what's your mix design? And I got to be able to talk to him about it. Like I actually knew what I was talking about.
Right.
Again, never would have learned anything like that if I hadn't joined this organization or come to these events. Not just join, but actually come to these events and talk to people like you and find out these things that I never knew existed in this industry or would never have been able to advance my company more because I was able to talk to people like you about these things.
Well, you hit it on the head. It's not only joining, but it's attending. And that's what we stress all the time is quality over quantity. So we have membership drives. We want new members, but we want members who are active because, as I mentioned, you get out of it what you put into it. So just being a member isn't enough, to be honest with you. It's being a member and taking advantage of not just the in-person events like here in the World of Concrete and the safety and committee week. Those are really great, but it's also taking advantage of the online, the newsletter, the online forums. And I would encourage anyone who's considering, if you're going to join, then you need to be part of a committee. You don't need to sit on the board, but you should attend some of those meetings. Because
I just had that conversation yesterday.
Yeah, because that's really where the grassroots events and grassroots change is taking place. You know, committee, strategy, programs, driving things forward. And I think, from my understanding, and it can be a little intimidating, especially for new people, they're not quite sure, you know, how do you get involved? And my advice would be just show up.
Right.
You're allowed to talk at all these meetings. There's no set protocol. Obviously, we have professional, we follow professional rules for these meetings, but everyone is invited, and we want to hear people. Everybody has something to say who's in the industry, and everybody has experiences to share. So that's what makes it powerful, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, that's a very good point because my first 2 years coming here, I wasn't a member, and I was trying to decide what was I going to get out of this? Was it really going to be worth my time? And I realized right away that I could voice my opinion. No one was shooting me down and saying that's a terrible idea or you can't talk because you're a non-member.
Right.
And you're able to go to all these different board meetings, all these different committee meetings. Again, like you said, not only can you get involved as much as you want to, but even if you don't want to be involved with those specific committees, but you want to know what they're doing, you can come to this event and go sit down and listen in on everything. There is no rule that you can only go to the ones you tagged or the ones that you came here to be in. There's no limit, and you don't even have to be a member. You can literally come, listen in, find out what the concrete industry is doing. And that, to me, I don't know how much that happens in other organizations, but it's a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, from my experience, ASCC is, while it is a trade group and there are lots of trade organizations, there are some things that are special here in terms of that open network, the culture. I think it was Chris or Byron Klomaski years ago made a statement that really resonated with me and stuck in my head ever since. And ASCC is where experts come to meet with experts.
That's a very good point because I feel like I need this organization in this week to remind me that I'm not the only one. That to an extent, to even kind of check my ego. Because, you've met me, you've known me for over a decade. When you first met me, I was one of the egotistical maniacs in the industry.
Rick, you're an artist.
And, I had to learn, and a lot of it was through this organization, to check that and change my attitude. And I've learned so much more from everybody here just because of changing that attitude. If I didn't have you guys, I wouldn't have anybody to help check that.
Well, I mean, that's great. But I think that the bottom line there is everyone here is here to help everyone else. That's really what it's all about. It's business and profit is the bottom line. But this organization, you've got everybody is willing to answer questions. And so it just doesn't really matter what it's about, industry related, off industry related. I've had many just really deep, interesting conversations with people who are attending, who've been members for years, and then people who are just here to pick up an award or whatever. You learn new things, you meet new people. As I mentioned at the beginning here, it's all about that networking, education.
And now, we both have always been part of the DCC.
Correct.
And yes, we've been involved with ASCC, yes, we've been involved with CPC, but our focus 100% is being part of the Decorative Concrete Council and everything that's associated with that. And our favorite part of all of that is always the awards. You know, we've always been strong advocates about the awards. You were there with me when we talked to everybody into moving it from World of Concrete to the ASCC conference. Right. We have been huge fans of this from day one. This is one of the reasons why I even got into the organization, because the very first time I met you guys, Wes Fulmer and a couple of those guys took me to the award ceremony, and I sat there and I was like, this is my competition? I can do anything here.
In the little room in the little dark room at the World of Concrete.
That no one could fit into. And,
yeah, right.
You know, and so it was awesome to go, wow, there's so much potential here. Yeah. And then to start winning awards and starting to use that for credibility in my world really helped me a ton. So one of the biggest problems we have with the awards, though, is that we need more people entering. How do you think we can help get more? We're not doing bad, but there's always room for more people.
Yeah, well, there's always room. It's grown. So I've said the awards are really, it's kind of my baby. I inherited it years ago when I was part of the staff in terms of being the decorative concrete specialist, and just really fell in love with what it's doing in terms of awareness. This year we had just at about 100. Yeah. So the idea is we want to continue to grow that. So how do we do that? You know, that's the question on the table. I look through, you know, and I'm a member of many social media feeds, Decorative Concrete and Facebook and Instagram, and I see amazing work. You know, every day, every week, contractors who are out promoting their work. These are jobs that need to be submitted.
It's funny you say that, because one of the ones that won this year was me posting saying, "Hey, you should enter this."
That's great, and we need more of that
too. Like when we had that year where the guy had all the records on the floor.
Yes,
that was me that said, "Hey, dude, you need to post this."
That's right, because I was in Nashville.
And so that was another awesome kind of. But you're right, because I do watch all the forums too, and I do go in there and go, you need to enter these, and we need to do more of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the guys that have entered now know, hey, I need to enter. But then one of the problems I noticed on this one was one of the guys that entered, I think he entered it in the wrong section. And so I was like, you know, to me, you should have entered in artistry, and instead you entered in multiple applications, which was fine. He still won in that category. But also we need to find a way to kind of help these people understand what you're really entering for. And he was like, well, next time I'll just call you, and, you know, of course, people on why would you enter this category? Common sense, because we had vertical carving all over the place, plus voting for.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think as the industry has morphed and we're seeing more of just really creative, amazing projects that are encompassing lots of different aspects. So 20 years ago, it was a stamped patio, an acid-stained floor, maybe an overlay. We didn't even have a polish category back then.
Right.
Or, you know, a lot of these categories of additional work that needs to be done. We are going to be meeting here in the next month or so to talk about next year's awards already and how we are going to refine that. Your point is valid, and I think it's a great point in creating more guidelines in terms of if your project, you know, you need to identify what is the major overriding theme. Is it 80% carved and 20% stain or whatever? Well, then that needs to slide into the carved and the vertical type category. We're also always moved categories after years of not having it. Things change, and as they morph, we can bring categories back. So this is what the post meeting is all about, the post awards or post annual conference meeting, to have those discussions, to figure out what are the awards going to look like, how is this best going to, or how can we make next year better?
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear too this year about how much more they want to do with social media, that they want to push even harder, because I think that's the hardest thing. Now, of course, comes to social media.
Nope, you know, I fully admit that.
And I was talking to some of the younger, the emerging leaders of the organization, and they're all like, Instagram, and I'm like, Facebook. You know, like, I just don't get it. Yeah. But whatever it takes, you know. And so the hard thing is now we've got to figure out, well, how can we do more advertising when it's mostly picture-based?
Yeah, so once again, I'm going to default to this is what the younger generation, this is why we need to bring some... Exactly, yeah. So I know that Karen Keys will be part of that, so she's managed and done a really nice job with social media, but we've also got some other people who are younger, and we will bring some people in who that is their world, and that's where their strength is, and they will focus on that, and they'll do wonders for us in regards to getting awareness out there, because that's really what it is. For the most part, everybody likes winning.
Yeah.
You know, that's a human nature. And what we need to do, contractor base out there who are doing these amazing projects aware that, hey, there is an international awards program that is, you know, recognizes the best of the best, and you can be a $100 million company, you can be a $1 million or less company, and you pretty much still have, we've created categories to where you can be competitive.
No, I think that's a really good point, especially the key word is international. You know, this year had so many international projects and what we're doing, you know, and so I think that but a lot of those were so big. You know, you look at the work that I do and it's more or residential and it's smaller. I don't do things over 5,000 square feet. I don't even think about that stuff. The one year, I remember a couple years ago, I entered and I didn't win a single award, and I was like, what the? So I went to the award ceremony and I was like, oh, that's why. Because these projects were amazing. Even under five, it's just they did do better than me, and it was amazing to see how much better it was getting then, because at one point it felt like it was easy for me, and it's harder and harder to win in a good way.
Right.
You know, that's an awesome part of it.
But we also do understand that projects are done at the basis of, you have to have a customer who's willing to pay you. So first of all, you have to have someone who's willing to pay you to do an amazing project. Most of these contractors, their bread and butter work is not going to be award-winning work, meaning that it's good quality, but it's not something that's going to rise to the level of them submitting. But there are 2 or 3 jobs a year that they get a customer who wants something out of the box. It allows them to really let their creative juices go, and those are the jobs that we want.
Well, and a perfect example is one of the ones that won this year that was a patio with the plank wood stamp that they were just going to do a basic plank stamp, and then the customer had an idea and they tried to pull it off. So to your point, a project they would never have thought of became so unique that they had to enter it, and they won because of it.
Right. Which, once again, that's a great story. And then, you know, you also have some of these larger, like the theme parks, to where those are going to be submittal quality projects from the drawing board.
Right.
Just because of the size and the scope. And I was talking about different categories. One of the light bulbs that went off with me as I went through and prepared for the awards this year is we need to have a theme park category. You know,
that's an interesting point.
Just to categorize theme parks, because there's such an explosive growth of theme parks, and we all know the big names of Universal and Disney and Six Flags, but there are so many, especially outside of the United States. We're seeing an explosion of smaller theme parks, water parks, and theming. So it would be a theming category that we would have subcategories underneath that in terms of what theming does. So theming does a lot of textured or stamped walkways. They do a lot of carved and
a lot of vertical work.
A lot of vertical and theming. So we might have 3, 4, 5 subcategories under theming, but theming would be a separate category.
Well, and that's why that's a really good point, because that's why I brought it up earlier. It's really hard to define what a theme park is. Are you talking about the vertical, all of it? You know, and they are talking about all of it. But the categories for them really don't fit because of it to me.
Yeah, so I mean, this
way.
is one of the things that just in the last couple of years, we've seen an explosion of theme park submittals. You know, I can think 3 or 4 years ago, looking back at the awards, there were no theme park submittals. There was nobody winning awards for theme parks. And then all of a sudden, 2, 3 years ago, I think there was one in China that was just a small theme park. And then this year, there were, I think, 4 or 5 winners.
Yes, something like that.
With theme parks. And I think that trend is going to continue as we see. Now, there's theme parks are just they're a birthplace, and they are a magnet for decorative concrete applications. This is where, you know, you get artists and these companies are allowed to get really creative because it's that type of environment. That's what they want. Because when you pay the kind of money you do to go to Disney and Universal, you're stepping out of reality and you want to enter the land of Harry Potter and, you know, whatever. This is what you're looking for. That's what you're after.
Yeah, and the interesting thing to that too is that because of concrete, there is no limit to what you can make. You know, you think about any other type of medium, and you can't make all these vertical stones. You can't pull in tons and tons of pounds of stones to try to make it look like it's real because it's real stone.
Right.
It's so much easier to use this medium to create these entire environments, and that is an amazing part of being a part of this, you know, this industry really for me. You know, when I first came into the industry, never crossed my mind of any of this stuff. You know, I worked in this for 7, almost 8 years before I even knew there was an industry before I even knew that there was these organizations or anything like that. World of Concrete. I didn't know any of that existed. I was just this little artist in the corner making artwork on floors and minding my own business. Yeah. And it's amazing to see all the changes that have happened since I found out about it, because a lot of this was just starting.
Yeah, and there's to that point, there are a lot of contractors out there who are not aware of this networking opportunity, the support opportunity, ASCC, what it can bring. And there's always going to be that percentage who doesn't see value in that. And that's fine. That's the beauty of the world we live in, to each your own. You can do that.
That's a good point, because one of the things for me was every time I talk to someone about being a member, it's always like, well, what's in it for me? And I had to learn very quickly, none of this is for me. I'm not here to make tons of projects happen. Some people do, some, especially in the polishing community and stuff like that. There's a lot of opportunity for work here if you know how to run that kind of stuff and create that network. It wasn't that for me. It was about the big picture, about being a part of the big picture, about being involved and understanding all the different ins and outs. And it has helped me on job sites. It hasn't given me a return on my investment from the organization, but it has given me a return on that investment, on the knowledge and the ability that has made my job easier where I go.
Right. Yeah, that's the networking. And, just around the corner here, there's, 15, 20 tables, sponsor companies who are showing the latest and greatest on what they have to offer.
We have the Shark Tank coming up.
Shark Tank at lunch today, that's an interesting concept along the lines of the television show. And, these manufacturers get a couple minutes to give their spiel and get peppered with questions from the audience. So that's kind of fun. So, yeah, ASCC is trying to create an environment that's new and changing and bring new ideas but make it fun as well. So it's, it really comes back to getting out what you put in. You have to show up, show some interest, because just being a member, as I say all the time, isn't enough.
No, I agree. And I'm just going to say thank you for being here, for being a part of all this. Thank you for being a friend all these years.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's been awesome. I remember meeting you and just being interested, who is this artist?
Well, that's one of the things I always ask in the North. Like, this podcast was more about our organization because we're here, and I want to get into having one-on-one one of these days too. But one of the things I always ask in my regular podcast is, when's the first time you met me?
Probably at an ASCC event.
It was not.
World of Concrete.
It is.
Yes.
But the thing is I ask that question because there's a lot of times, and you know this too, there's a lot of times when people come up to you, introduce themselves, and then you don't talk, you're not paying attention, or you don't remember their name and stuff like that. My first personal time of remembering meeting you is when we literally ran into each other walking through the parking lot between the north and the south halls.
Okay.
And I stopped you and introduced myself and started talking to you and stuff like that. That was the first time I officially remember talking to you and getting to know you, and then we started talking from that point on, and we've never stopped.
Oh, great. That's awesome. And, I remember early on you started to attend some of the DCC meetings, and were bringing a whole new level of, because at that time it was stamped concrete, stained concrete, and here's this guy who's hand cutting and doing these designs that nobody was doing. And it was like, this is awesome. This is a next level. This is what we need. This is the type of people we welcome and want to hear from.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
No, that was good. It was really good. So it's been a great friendship, and it's been a great ride. So here's to the next 20 years.
Absolutely, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
All right. See you later.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Concrete Mystique, the podcast. Go to ascconline.org to find out more about all the benefits you can get by becoming a member. A big thanks to Surfcoat for sponsoring this show. Check out surfcoat.com for all their great products. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and have a great day.